You don't understood this model, right? Yesterday, what I explained. Right. In interview question, in interview, they will be asking, can you explain Spring MVC flow? That means this flow. So the Spring MVC flow, can you explain? Right. So now we know that Spring MVC. Again, I'm asking how many of you understood this yesterday's, this one, whatever I told. Now you got an idea, right? You got an idea how Spring MVC is working with a single servlet. Right or wrong? Right? Right then. So right. So I think, yeah. No, I'll show with an example definitely. But what I was asking is, like yesterday concept you understood or not? See, because whatever I told yesterday's concept you understood or not? Yeah, fine. So definitely I'll show with an example. Not with example, with examples I'll show you. Okay, because we are going to see so many examples in the Spring MVC. So many different types of problems that you will be facing in real-time problems and interview point of view, all I'll be covering. Yesterday is the foundation for the MVC flow. So just one. Now, for example, now let me now think like this now. Now we know that now Spring MVC works on single servlet model. Spring MVC works on single servlet model. Now, let me take now. So there will be a dispatcher servlet. Right? So there will be a dispatcher servlet. Now we have in web.xml, right? So any URL pattern that starts with slash, will be sent to dispatcher servlet. Right? Now any request coming from the browser, say, now we have localhost 8080/orders. Right? I mean, this will be your, this localhost is part of your, this is local machine where your Tomcat server is running. So like that, now you'll have some slash products. Right? Let us think this is a kind of in /users. These are all some URL patterns. Now any request will go to dispatcher servlet. And now your dispatcher servlet, what it will do based on this path, it will invoke the corresponding models. So it will invoke the your orders model. Right. Next, it will invoke the products model. Like it will invoke the users model. Right. So like that, now any request, any URL pattern will be going to this dispatch servlet, and dispatch servlet will be invoking these models. And what are the models? This is where your business logic lies. This is where the business logic lies. Right? Like connecting to the database. Right, etc. Now the thing is, once these models get executed, now there should be now the presentation, right? Where is your presentation? So that is part of your view. Your dispatcher servlet now will invoke a view. So for each request, there will be multiple views. So these are your views. View 1, view 2, view 3, right? So these are the different views, which is your presentation layer, where the result is, where the response is, where the response is rendered. Okay. Now, okay, this is how the flow. Now, for example, this URL will invoke a order model. This will connect to a database, get the list of orders. See, for example, you can think like in website like your flipkart.com or amazon.com, where you'll be logging into the application. You want to see the list of orders that was raised by you. So assume that that is invoking this orders model. So that is connecting to the database, getting the list of orders and showing this in this view. So this view is your orders page. Okay, so we'll see the examples where we will use JSPs, okay? Java server pages as presentation layer. How many of you know JSPs? How many of you already worked on JSPs or already know? How many of you already know JSPs? Okay, only 2 people. Just I want to see the response from everyone. Everyone has to respond. right? Okay, so we are going to see this in JSPs, and we are going to, okay. Now, let us see how the flow of MVC works. Spring MVC flow. Now, if you see, this is your dispatcher servlet. Any request will come to the dispatcher servlet. Any request will come to dispatcher servlet. Now this dispatcher servlet now, okay, any request, like this is your orders request, your products request. Okay. Then your users request. Any request will come to the dispatcher servlet. Now that will invoke a handler mapping. This is invoke a handler mapping. Okay, it will ask handler mapping. It will ask handler mapping. Is there any handler which can handle the request? Whatever the request it is coming, whatever the request that is coming to this, it will ask the handler mapping. It will ask handler mapping, is there any handler which can handle the request? Now what handler mapping will do? The handler mapping this handler mapping will identify this request. So this handler mapping will identify the request. Request like identify the request like orders / products / users, etc. Okay, and returns back the handler object. So now this will return the handler object, right? Now your dispatcher servlet, what it will do now? Now it will connect to the handler adapter. It will connect to the handler adapter. Okay, it will ask handler adapter. To execute the handler object. Now your handler adapter, what it will do? Now it will invoke there will be multiple handlers, okay? Now these multiple handlers are for these requests. So these are your multiple handlers. There will be your multiple handlers. Okay, these multiple handlers, so it will invoke these handler objects, and once this, okay, I mean, at a time it will invoke only one handler. Okay, remember. For one request, one handler. Like that, for orders request, for example, this will be your orders handler. Right? And products handler. Right? Next is users handler. Right? And so suppose if it is orders request, it will invoke this. If it is product request, it will invoke this, like that. Orders request, it will invoke this. Products request will invoke this. Right? Next is users request, it will invoke this. Now, so your handler, actually, what is your handler? Your handler or your models. Whatever I'm showing you, right? These models. These models, whatever I'm showing, that one. That means from here to here, this is this flow. This is some detailed flow. So these are your models. Right? Now, once the response, so this will give the response back. So this will give the response back. Right? And so now this response now is given back. This is your handler response. Right? And now, based on the handler response, your dispatcher select now what it will know? It will invoke a view resolver. It will invoke a view resolver. So it will tell the handler response. It will give the handler response. Now view resolver now will identify one of the view. There will be multiple views associated with view resolver. Okay. So your view resolver will identify. So I can give the numbers. Okay. Say for example, this is your first number. So okay, this is your first one. Now this will be your 2. Right? Let me put here. This will be your 1. This will be your 2. So this will be your 3. Right? This will be 4. Okay. Now this will be your 5. Now the response again will be 6. Right? This will be your 7. So this will be your 8. And this will be your 9. So it can invoke any view. So this will be your 9. So these are views. View. Right? right? So, and these views, so that means for a given handler response, there will be only one view. It will invoke those views, and this will be your presentation. Presentation layer. Okay. See, whatever the flow, this part, this part, okay, this part and this part, I just put in a detailed way. And you know, if you set up Spring MVC framework, now this is already provided by your Spring MVC. You don't need to develop. Developer need not develop this. Developer need not implement this. So this is provided by Spring Pro. This is provided by Spring MVC framework. Right? Similarly, this also is handler mapping. So developer need not implement this. Implement this. So this is provided by Spring MVC framework. Right? Similarly, this also. So developer need not implement this. This is provided by Spring MVC framework. Spring MVC framework. Okay. Now, this also. So developer need not implement this. Developer need not implement this. So this is provided by Spring MVC. Now developer has to develop these models. Okay. Right. So if you see here, developer has to develop these models. So this should be written by developer because this is part of your business logic. This should be implemented by developer, as this is part of the business logic, where it connects to the database, everything, where you'll write the Java code. Here you'll write the Java code. And this also. So this also. So these are JSPs. So this should be implemented by developer. By developer for presentation layer. For presentation layer. If you see, if you use Spring MVC framework, this is already provided by Spring MVC framework. This is already provided by Spring MVC framework. This is already provided by Spring MVC framework. Only you have to develop these models, which are a part of your business logics. And you have to develop this presentation there. which is your JSPs, that HTML and all. And this is already provided by this. So there will be one view resolver for multiple views. Okay, this is already provided by Spring MVC framework. See, only out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 4 are already provided by Spring MVC. Only 2 components you need to write. See, that is the advantage of Spring MVC. Otherwise, you need to write all these components, right? So Spring MVC is making your life easy. Just you have to focus on writing this business logic. Just only on the, which is your normal Java code. Java, JDBC, Hibernate. Only that logic you have to write here. And here the JSPs, which is your HTML. JSP is like an HTML. So you have to write the presentation there. So only these two. You don't need to write dispatcher servlet. This is already taken care by Spring MVC. You don't write handler mapping. You don't need to write handler adapter. You don't need to write view resolver. Everyone clear with this? Everyone clear? This flow. Right? See, whatever these handlers are called, models. So in Spring MVC, how we will implement these models? In Spring MVC, how we will implement the models, right? So these models are called, we'll implement using Spring Beans. We'll implement these models using Spring Beans, right? So what is a Spring Bean now? Spring Bean is the class. You can have like a class. I can have a class, say for example, X. If I put here @ component, if I put @ component, right? Now this can become a Spring Bean, right? This can become a Spring Bean. That's what we have seen in our Spring core. So now this X can become Spring Bean. What is a Spring Bean? Spring beans are, or we can say object of X. We can say object of X can become Spring Bean. So Spring Beans are the objects managed by the Spring application context, right? So where IOC and DA are applicable. So where one bean can be injected to other bean, all that. So application context creates the bean like that. So your Spring MVC will implement using the models, which are Spring Beans. Now, but we'll use special type of beans. So any class that is under the @ component is a Spring Bean. But in Spring MVC, so we know that any class annotated with the @ component is a Spring Bean, right? Is a Spring Bean. Now, this is an annotation called @ component. From this annotation, 3 annotations have come, 3 special annotations have come, which will use Spring in Spring MVC. So from this annotation, 3 annotations have come. So one is @ controller. One is @ controller, right? And another one is at the rate service. At the rate repository. Okay. Okay. Now these are your special annotations which are derived from this at the rate curve. That means these are also Spring Beans. So any class annotated with these beans are considered as any class annotated with these annotations are called or considered Spring Beans. Now your MVC models, the Spring MVC models are annotated with this class. So now whatever the request that is coming from your dispatcher servlet, okay, internally will go to handler mapping, handler adapter. So ultimately, any request that is coming from your dispatcher servlet, any request that is coming from your dispatcher servlet, okay, internally that flow, I'm not going to draw that flow, that will go to your handler mapping, handler adapter, and handler will call that all that, okay, but internally that flow is there, okay, which is part of your, which is taken care. See, this flow is taken care by your Spring MVC framework. Okay, only thing is you have to write now. So any request that is coming to dispatcher servlet, now we'll come to the models or handlers. The first model will be the controller class. It will come to the controller. So it will come to the controller. This is your bean. At the rate controller means it is a bean. It is a bean actually. So don't get confused with the controller that is of our MVC. That controller is a servlet. I mean, in MVC flow, this is the main controller for dispatcher servlet, but that is the controller in MVC. But this is just a Spring Bean, simple Spring Bean controller. So this what this will take? This will take the request. So this will take the request. These are all class level annotations. Okay, these are all class level. This will take request, right? And then pass the request. I'll tell you how it will identify everything. I'll tell you. So how it will go to a particular controller? So it will identify based on the URL pattern, as I told you, right? Based on the orders request, products request, users request. So based on the URL, how it will identify, I'll tell you. So based on URL pattern, it will invoke the controller. Now controller will invoke a service class with service. And service will invoke class with at the rate repository. Class with at the rate repository. Now, repository, what it will do? It will connect to the database. It will connect to your database. So, controller will take the request coming from dispatcher servlet, will take the request and give the response. Will take the request and give response. Now, service will have the business logic. So this will have your Java, your business logic in Java. If you have any kind of for loops or transform, everything, okay? And repository will have your Hibernate code this will have the database operations logic. Okay, like with using Hibernate or JDBC. Using Hibernate or JDBC. And once it connects to the database, it gives back the response. And then it will go to this repository will invoke the service. So this is your response. This will give back the response. Now, this will now give back the response. So this will give back the response. Right? Now, this will invoke the internal view resolver. So the response finally will invoke a view. It will invoke a view. Right? So the response will invoke a view, and this view will be, we will present the final presentation. Final presentation. So from where a request comes, this is your browser. From browser, the request comes here. The final presentation is also rendered in the browser. So this is your request. And this is your response. So basically, if you see, these are all your models, all your handlers, models. Okay, so only these we are segregating the functionality. So this will take the request, this will take, so these are all your Spring Beans only. So these are all your Spring Beans. So what I'll do is tomorrow onwards, we'll see practicals. We'll see so many examples. Okay, how to build. We'll start. I'll also show you one real-time project also. I will also show you one real-time project also. I'll tell you how the request bean gets passed. All the practical, if I show, it will be easy. But this is the overall flow for your understanding. Okay. I'll tell you one bean, how we can pass from here to here. Everything we'll see. Okay. So tomorrow we're going to see the practicals of all this. We are also going to see one real-time project where we'll develop one small customer-based application. Like a CRM, I can add customers. And also build or use of customer registrations. So where I can add student details and all that. I'll show you the real-time project. All right then. Any doubts till now? Any questions? PPT. I'll upload PPT, okay? Don't worry, I'll upload the PPT. All right then, okay? So thank you all. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to see the practicals, okay? Thank you all. Thank you.